Without vision,
People perish,
right?
Yeah. This BHAG allows you to actually make a difference in the world, but overcome and be successful as a company at all the business metrics by focusing the people in the organization, you and everyone else that's following you, that you're leading, and fueling them.
We talked about mindset in a previous podcast. There's such power in belief, right? In understanding that where we are today is not the end of the journey, right? There is so much more, and this is what we're striving for, and this is what we're going after to keep us moving forward. Welcome to Half a Bubble Up podcast. I'm Catherine Redmond.
I'm Michael Redmond, and this podcast is about helping leaders like you build passion provision companies so that you can thrive as an individual and thrive as a company. And today we're going to talk about this whole idea of how do you create a vision strong enough and powerful enough to pull you through the inevitable challenges of running a business. So join us today and let's jump in. All right, so today we're going to talk about this whole idea of vision and actually the elements of a vision that are really important to be pulling us through. We have to create enough energy that actually overcome the challenges that are always going to happen in business.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just the daily challenges that are just your emotional ups and downs. Stupid stuff happens.
Yeah. Sometimes it's economic stuff where the whole world seems to be weird and you're not sure if you're if you're going to get your next clients or keep the ones you have. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
And sometimes it's just the market.
Yep.
In your individual unique market and stuff like that. In the last 22 years, we've experienced the Great Recession. We've experienced COVID. We've experienced moments where everybody else was thriving and we were sucking swamp water, trying to figure out how to pay the bills and make payroll.
We've been through a local national. That didn't work. A local crisis when we had the campfire and all the impact on our local economy.
Basically 25,000 homes burning in one
just
day.
Natural disaster, right?
And even seeing that, I mean, the entire world was actually watching that one and the aftermath of that. Even Ron Howard came and did a documentary.
Thank you, Ron. We appreciate you.
The influence on cities across the country, even from what our county's gone through. All these different things impact your business, your people, your culture. We have people who are still like, you smell smoke in the air because of the fires. We're 6 years later now.
Yeah, 5.5. Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like
PTSD.
Is that an important fire? Or is that not an important fire?
Do I need to panic? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these different things that go on. Not to mention, in January of this year, our staff walked into 2.5 inches of water in our entire office because a pipe in a wall in a building we rent that we didn't know was there. And we've been here since 2006. All of a sudden decided it was time to give up the ghost.
Yes, it did. It presented
and
itself
relieve
aggressively
all over the entire building.
Yes.
And so you've got these things of, okay, how do you handle these things? How do you deal with these challenges? And I think there are multiple ways we could approach this conversation, but today we're going to talk about how we use a really good vision for a company that is clear, complete, and compelling. Mm-hmm. Those three things we talk about all the time. Why do you need it? And it's amazing how much pushback we get from so many leaders of like, why do I need this? This doesn't make any sense. Look, we're here to make money. We're here to do this. This is our main goal.
I don't see how this is strategic. I don't see the tactical value of this.
So let's talk about the 4 parts of a clear, complete, and compelling vision, articulated probably the best in Good to Great.
Yeah, Jim Collins.
What are those 4 pieces?
So it's kind of got 2 different sides. So one side is core values and core purpose.
Yep.
And then the other side is big, hairy, audacious goal, BHAG. Yep. And then a clear, vivid description of what would happen if we achieved that goal.
Yeah. What does life look like? Yeah. It's the classic evidence or description of begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
Like if you can think about what the end is supposed to look like, then you can make a lot of decisions to drive towards that and solve problems on the way.
Yeah. And the big, hairy, audacious part, the audacious is in order for it to really be compelling, because that word compelling, right?
Yep.
Like, what does it look like to create something that is, it's a little out of, like, you're not sure you can actually achieve that. right? That actually is going to require a whole lot of things that you do not yet know how to do or do not yet have at the ready.
And we're talking a minimum of 10 years out and 10 to 30. And one of the reasons that Jim talks about this is that the companies that he was evaluating and doing research, and really, I heard him recently say the last 25 years of his career, he has learned over time that every book that he released was really a successive part of a overall experiment or research project that he's been doing for his entire career. And it is what makes companies that survive the long haul, long term, and thrive above the market. So he studied all these companies that had been around decades, some of them 100 years, and that performed at somewhere between 5, 7, 8x over the market in their life on average.
So just to kind of deal with, potential elephant in the room.
Okay.
How would you address the person who would say to you, but Michael?
Yes, but Michael.
Life, the speed of acceleration, technology, everything is changing so fast that to try and think about something like that just seems like a complete waste of time. I can barely see to next year. Maybe you can get me to stretch to 3, but there's no way that there's any value in thinking beyond that because there's too many things I don't know, too many things changing all the time. And that was great for, when there was a little bit less technology, but now with the pace of technology, this doesn't seem realistic anymore.
It seems like a waste of time.
Seems like a complete waste of time. So what would you say to that?
I'd say a couple of things. The first thing I would say is I totally get it. I understand it makes perfect sense. And we have had to adapt with technology and the speed of technology and the speed of change and learned ways to adapt to all of this. We talk about this stuff as VUCA, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity around us. Right. If you chart it over the last 100 years, it's increasing.
Absolutely.
So I get it. I understand. What is true, and this is the other part I would say actually there are fundamental things in life as who we are as humans and the way life exists and the core principles of business exist that have not changed. So let me demonstrate. The 20th century, actually, now we're in the 21st century.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you very much.
Time scholars everywhere. This is not the 22nd century.
Okay, all right. So the 20th century was one of the most extensive centuries of change. The most change is reported in many ways from all of history. There was an immense amount of things that happened because when we were barely scratching the surface when we entered the 20th century, the 1900s. We were barely scratching the surface on electricity.
Automobiles,
motors, motors, and on this concept of how do we make a motorized carriage, right? So the beginning of cars, the idea of light bulbs, and the idea of telegraphs and telephones. So what we're doing is we were radically changing.
We had gravity wired.
Yeah. Depending on for those two scientists out there who are nerdy scientists who are thinking that, forgive her.
Okay.
Okay.
She can't help herself.
But I mean, you think about it, what we did is we radically changed the speed at which communication can travel across the country or across long distances. We radically changed the speed at which we could go across long distances. And we radically changed the way we light an environment and the amount of day we can actually exist and move into and how much work we can do at night without candles and stuff like that.
And then there was airplanes and,
And again, radically speeding up the time we could travel somewhere. What didn't change was the overall desire for people to improve their life. What didn't change is the overall concept of we have needs, we have desires, and we have fears. And the fact that most people, 80% of the population, within 100 miles of anybody listening right now, within 100 miles of you, is the idea that 80% of the population actually is motivated by solving a problem. 15% are motivated by achieving a goal. And 5% are motivated by finding an opportunity and waiting for the opportunities and feeling more than happy to sit under a tree and enjoy the shade until that
says,
moment,
hey, you.
that moment happens.
I have something for you.
And it's like, hey, this is a great opportunity. Because that's motivating to people, those things. Well, that didn't change. Another thing that didn't change that was in the midst of all that was agriculture. Agriculture, while we have all these amazing changes in agriculture, and some would say for the better, some would say for the worse.
Right. All the innovation has happened.
The innovation, even the mechanical innovation that nobody really argues is a bad thing, radically changed the amount of food we could create. But the overall principles of we plant in the spring, it grows during the summer warm months for most crops, and we harvest in the fall. Never changed. We've tried to cheat it. We've tried to put it into extend the growing patterns. Right. We've tried to create greenhouses, but the way it happens and who we are as human beings at a core.
So it still takes a woman 9 months to, create a baby. And you can't create a baby, like 9 women can't create a baby in a month. It's just, it doesn't work.
It doesn't happen.
So
there's this,
some of those things don't change.
So, all of that stuff. And why do I talk about all these things and layering them on? Because it's amazing how obvious these things are. And yet they are completely overlooked because of this mindset we have that's been created about change in our world. New technology has completely changed the way we as humans fill in the blank.
Which it just isn't always the case. And there's a very clear biblical principle that we would say has never ceased to apply. And it's a proverb, and it basically says, without vision,
people perish.
People perish, right?
Yeah.
Without having a clear sense of why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we here? What is this about? The discouragement, the lack of morale, you start to die inside.
So yes, and you realize that along with all the different examples I gave, the core of technology changing, and yet the core of who people are and how we interact, how we learn, how we're motivated to do things has not really evolved. There are people who propose it's evolved, but the evidence isn't there. And most people are like, okay, yeah. We're evolved human beings. Why do we still do stupid stuff?
We have all the information to solve all the problems and yet repeat history. Weird.
Strange. How is that?
What is that about?
So in business, what we look at is we go, okay, we are dealing with, yes, there's lots of change, and that sometimes increases often the complexity and the volatility and uncertainty of decisions and patterns and stuff. But human beings are still changing at the speed of agriculture. We're still learning at the speed of agriculture, no matter if we can take in information faster or not. Because human beings at our core behave that way, there's things that just have not changed about the way we're motivated, the way we find energy to accomplish the things of today, the way we find motivation and energy to overcome the obstacles that are in front of us.
Yeah, the resilience to move forward.
Resilience is a great topic. And we've been talking about that. And John Eldridge wrote a great book on resilience that you and I read this last year.
It's called Resilient.
Resilient. But this idea of, even he posits in that as a psychologist over years, decades, that even COVID radically impacted the resilience of the world. And what does this look like? And when we talk about having a clear, complete, and compelling vision, and the reason it's talked about in Good to Great and his books is because it provides a thing that taps into the core of who human beings are, and allowed those companies that were doing multiple X over the stock market, which means multiple X over most companies, is because it's a secret weapon. It's a secret weapon when somebody says, I know that if I plant at the right time, the right ideas, the right thoughts, and I water them and I give them all the nutrients they need, those ideas will grow and become incredibly powerful and strong. The seed of an oak tree, and yet given the right conditions, good soil and light and water and everything else, grows into a root system that is incredibly powerful and can hold up a huge tree. Or the simple alfalfa that can grow a 50-foot root system into the earth and pull up nutrients so that farmers can actually plow it back into the ground, and it's a natural fertilizer just by letting it grow, sit, and not harvesting it. We have this ability to look at this simple truth of, if I can give you something that actually resonates with you, a vision that of accomplishing something that you care about, that we care about, then when I get up in the morning, if I can remember to refocus on that, I can go, I don't care how bad it is today, I can make it there.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. I mean, not related necessarily to business, but like you're saying all of that, and all I can think of is I have a dream,
Yeah.
right? That focused motivation of I have a dream of a better world. I have a dream of, and even as believers, I mean, part of our BHAG ultimately is this is not the end of the story, right? And seeing ourselves in
Yeah.
perspective of
Yeah.
the bigger story. But as it comes to business, like what is our business designed to accomplish? And in our world, in the kingdom, what is our business designed to impact and change? And how do I get there? That's part of, I mean, for us, as we create our own BHAGs, that's really what we're trying to answer. And it is that thing that will continue to pull you forward, right? Like, okay, today sucked. And today makes it look like that is impossible, but it's just today.
So one of the people I coach is that, is a senior partner of a 24-year-old firm that does work nationally. We were having a conversation the other day, and we've talked about this idea of a vision and a BHAG. And by the way, this may be the first time we're mentioning BHAG today. BHAG is a big, hairy, audacious goal.
I said it
you
earlier.
did it. You did say it earlier.
I
And
did.
that BHAG is that compelling reason for the future that anchors us of why are we doing this? And we had talked about it. It's been really difficult for their company and their partners to even wrap their brains around it. And I said something that he caught in a new way, and he stopped me. Yeah,
Huh?
and he stopped me and goes, wait. You just said something that I don't think I've ever heard. I'm like,
What did I say?
What? And he goes, you talked about how the BHAG impacts the world outside of our company and outside of us. He goes, I don't think I've ever thought about it like that. Oh. And so for him, I'm like, I know I've talked about it. I talk about it all the time, but for some reason, whatever I said, how I said it, it clicked with him. And now his brain is moving in a way of, oh, not only what's the value, the stock value of the company we want to build for ourselves, and how do we employ people and make them happy, but happy so that we have good employees. We care about people, we respect them, blah, blah, blah. People.
blah, just people. Oh, the thing we care about the most. You just blah, 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 people.
But okay, so when this idea of the BHAG, the thing that you are uniquely qualified for, right? That you care about it, you're qualified. And what I love is in some companies, you may care about this, that you're not uniquely qualified yet, but you want to become uniquely qualified.
Right.
So you're going to invest the time and energy to go, this is such a big deal. We're going to retool. Arthur Guinness, after 35 years of brewing one kind of beer in the very beginning, said, I am successful, but I'm going to shift and I'm going to do a completely different kind of beer. And it shocked everybody, which that movement of retooling everything and relearning new education, having a new system, brewing and teaching his entire organization that's 25, 35 years old, that's successful, we're going to retool and be uniquely qualified to grow and brew this other kind of beer that became a 500 plus year company, multi-generational, where the company grew and the family held on to the company until this last 50 years, and they still own a chunk of the company. That what we're talking about is creating something that in today's world that is increased in volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, that the world stage is becoming more competitive, that right now we're at a point where finances are difficult. Challenges, we can all agree that there are challenges. This BHAG allows you to actually make a difference in the world, but overcome and be successful as a company at all the business metrics by focusing an organization and fueling an organization, by focusing the people in the organization, you and everyone else that's following you, that you're leading, and fueling them. The difference between a large spotlight that just is shining out and illuminating the world to taking all of that light, and when somebody takes all of that light and just focuses it to a single point, it becomes a laser. And when you increase, and when you not only focus the light to a single point, but now you come at it from a different perspective, and you focus the frequencies of which light it comes, and then you increase the amperage and you increase the fuel, what you have is something that not only could cut through something that has a piercing moment, but it also, depending on the way you fuel it, can cause different things to act. Now you've got something that just, instead of just shining a light on it, it'll actually causes something to happen because of that energy movement. That is a BHAG. That is somebody who says, I care about this. We are uniquely qualified to do it, or we're going to get uniquely qualified to do it, and then move forward. Because here's the, and you said something a minute ago that was really important. As we move towards wrapping up this episode, it's really important to talk about the whole idea of that problem, the goal, and the opportunity. Let's talk about each one of those. If I'm going to motivate 100% of the people in my organization, because even leaders, they're not all goal oriented for stuff. Some of them are opportunity oriented. They want to looking for the opportunity they can grab, they can achieve the goal, or they actually just want to solve the problem. Well, when we do this, when we have this kind of purpose and meaning that we're designing, and then we can come up with 100 businesses, 100 things that we can sell or serve or anything else to move towards this, but it's going to tell us 10,000 things we won't do.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we go, okay, this BHAG is solving X problem. It is going to solve it in this way, and the detailed description will allow us to talk about it. I think that's important for us to do. The flip side of that, of the other side of that coin is, and what will allow us to achieve? Well, there's a goal. If we can solve this problem at X level, we will solve the problem of 10,000 people not being able to eat. If we can figure out how to get food, consistent, sustainable food into this region of the planet, we can stop 10,000 babies a year from dying. What's our goal? Our goal is to make sure 10,000 families and 10,000 children have the nutrients they need so they can develop into adults and thrive. Or for us, how do we help 10,000 companies become passion provision companies so that the people and the financial benefit is exploding, the personal development is exploding for us as entrepreneurs, for the people we want to share it from because we care about people, and the community that we're reaching and exist in and live in, so that we can help fourth graders read, so we can help the less fortunate get what they need. It's the widows and the orphans, and we can address the issues that would allow us to have a better society if we have a core BHAG that matters.
Yeah. Whew. You should breathe.
This is so important.
You really should breathe.
And yet people don't get it. And yet people don't want to do the hard work, and they don't want to go, but I just want to mind my own business and ignore it. Like, that's fine. And you're free to do that. But if you want a business that's going to be extremely profitable, if you want a company that is not going to suck the life out of you and strain every relationship you have, like so many entrepreneurs, men especially, but even women in this day who have crappy marriages because they're focused on their business, and it sucks the life out of every part of them. If you want a company that doesn't do that and thrives, you've got to figure out how to overcome the challenges and the difficulties and bring the people with you.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about mindset in a previous podcast. There's such power in belief, right? And in understanding that, this is where we are today is not the end of the journey, right? There is so much more, and this is what we're striving for. This is what we're going after to keep us moving forward. And it's true personally, professionally, all of the places we are pulled forward by what we believe could be. Whether we're motivated by solving a problem or by an opportunity or by
opportunity, problems, goals.
That one. Yes, that one. So I think this is a good place to sort of wrap. We have a lot of other things we could talk about with this, but what we hope is that there's just a little bit deeper desire for you to encounter how important it is to begin to think through this whole thing of, do I actually have a clear, complete, and compelling vision that can pull me through the difficult times, that does allow me to have resilience when things aren't looking good or we're struggling, and that people who work with us can rally around.
Yeah.
So,
and if you struggle with even figuring out, okay, this is interesting, but how do I even do this? Finding somebody in your life, a coach, a leadership coach, a business coach, somebody who can help you, even a good friend that can help you figure out, all right, like I can't even imagine this. I'm interested, I'm intrigued, but I can't even imagine how to get there.
Yeah.
That's what we do with people. And if we could be of any further help, contact us, click on the link below, and go to our website and find out some opportunities. Or you can just look for that in your own community. But I encourage you to explore this more and take where you are and move to the next level. It can make your company that much more successful and you that much more successful financially and emotionally. I'm Michael Redman.
And I'm Catherine Redman.
And this is the Half a Bubble Out podcast. Thanks for joining us.